One Chicago Tribune columnist, she's coming under fire for an article she wrote where she appears to say that she wishes a Hurricane Katrina would hit Chicago. Well, Kristen McQueary, she wrote, "I find myself wishing for a storm in Chicago, an unpredictable, haughty, devastating swirl of fury, a dramatic levee break, geysers bursting through manhole covers, a sleeping city forced onto rooftops. That's what it took to hit the reset button in New Orleans. Chaos, tragedy, heartbreak." Wow, Nick, you know, I read that, the first take, I'm like, how inept could someone be? You know, really fantastic writer, you know, gets her point across really well in these columns. How could she possibly say she wishes for Hurricane Katrina to hit Chicago so the politicians would clean up their act and public schools would go back to privately held? I mean, she's making all of these analogies in this argument, you know, saying that she's envious of Hurricane Katrina.
Right, so I'm sure a lot of people could see her statements as being extremely insensitive, to say the least. Now,
I'm one of them. I mean, she's making these remarks, and we get that she's doing this metaphorically, and perhaps, you know, there's more to her sentiment of thought than I took away from her article, but I'm definitely one of them. I'm like, how insensitive could you possibly be?
No, without a doubt, and she, just like a lot of people in Chicago, are very angry. Ron Emanuel keeps saying he'll do something, but a lot of people are saying that really no change is coming about. Now, I think it's more, you know, she does have a valid point, though. It's more of her MO, the way that she goes around it, she goes about it. To make comparisons to Katrina is extremely, like I said, insensitive. But look, I don't think the woman's actually, you know, sitting there in her room praying on her knees that, you know, asking God to bring some natural disaster upon the city of Chicago. I don't think she's sitting there doing the rain dance asking for it. I don't think she believes that's how it's going to go about. But, you know, I think one thing that she is touching on, though, she's, like you said, making the metaphor, but she's also touching on the fact that, you know, a lot of the tragedy that hit New Orleans could have possibly been prevented. I mean, the fact that, you know, the levees broke, there's a very slow response. A lot of people have criticized the Bush administration for that, especially. So that's definitely something you want to take into account before you start bashing her for the actual metaphor that she used.
Why didn't she go after FEMA? And that's so funny that you would say that. Did you say she wasn't on her knees praying? Because
yes.
Actually, she says, and I quote, "That's why I find myself praying for a real storm. It's why I can relate metaphorically to the residents of New Orleans climbing onto their rooftops and begging for help and waving their arms and lurching toward rescue helicopters." She is literally doing the rain dance naked in her room, praying that Hurricane Katrina hit Chicago.
Yeah, look, you got me on that one. You got me. I get it. I understand. She did just say that she was praying for something like that. And I get it. I get what you're saying. Like I said, her MO, the way that she's getting her point across is extremely insensitive. But I think what she's really touching on is a valid point nonetheless. I mean, literally, we need something like that to happen in order to see reform.
Why not indict FEMA? Why not indict Brownie on the ground? Why not indict that expansion of DHS because of Hurricane Katrina? Why indict the victims of Hurricane Katrina? I want to give her the metaphorical benefit of the doubt. I do agree with you that there's more to what she's saying than just she's envious of Hurricane Katrina victims. Perhaps, though, there was a better analogy that she could have made that would have been less insensitive, in my perspective, to these people. 971 victims, most of them were elderly black people that could not get out of their homes in time.
Right, so. And I totally, that's where we definitely agree on this. And I'm just saying there is a valid point behind it, though, no matter how insensitive her metaphor was. I'm sure a lot of people in New Orleans who had a house destroyed, who knew someone who had a house destroyed, who had a family member lost or knew someone who did, would be extremely upset at that metaphor. That's why I'm saying it's extremely insensitive.
Right. She's angry at government for their casual approach, both at City Hall and at Chicago Public Schools, towards spiraling debt and our elected officials' continued practiced risk that got us here. So we understand her frustration with the city of Chicago and the politics of Chicago. Perhaps, in my opinion, that metaphor wasn't appropriate. Let us know your opinion about this. Am I just being too sensitive here? Log on, post those comments below while you're at it. Be sure to check out the rest of our channel, and of course subscribe to the Lib TV 2 for more.